We're speaking with Phil Costner, chef, operations leader, and highly respected industry veteran who has now set his sights on La Madeleine. Stay tuned for the next in our series of Leaders with Guts. Phil, you became fascinated with cooking as a teenager. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, you know, the way, Ellen, the way that started was two people got me interested in cooking, and their names were Virginia and Julia. Julia Child was my mom's idol, and my mom was my idol. And so, when I was a young guy, my father was my father was a professor at the University of Washington, and back in those days, the de rigueur was to throw these lavish dinner parties for visiting professors and lecturers and whatnot. And my mom did a lot of the cooking for that. And when I became of age to help her, I was incredibly interested in what she was doing. And so she brought me into the kitchen with the Julia Child book right there on the counter, and we would cook together, and she would show me how to do this or that and the other thing. And I had a knack for it, and I really, really enjoyed it. In fact, the very first dish that we ever made together was supreme de volaille champignon, right out of Julia's book. And I still make that today. And as time went on, I became a little bit more proficient in the kitchen, so my mom would let me do all the appetizers by myself or all the canapes by myself. And as a couple of years went on, by the time I was a teenager, my brother and I would do all of the work in the kitchen and serve the parties. And it started then, and it's been a passion ever since.
La Madeleine recently rolled out some salads for summer. Can you talk a little bit about where those flavors came from?
Our core guest, we refer to our core guest as Amanda Montgomery. So everything we do revolves around Amanda Montgomery, her tastes, her needs, her lifestyle, what she's looking for, her definition of summer and flavor and authenticity. So those salads came from, first and foremost, an understanding of who she is and what she's after. And then secondly, we looked at flavor trends. And we knew that bacon was a huge trend going on in the marketplace today. And we also knew that we needed a seafood offering. So we looked at salmon and shrimp and a few others. So our senior director of culinary, Susan Detterin, developed about 8 or 9 fabulous salads, all of which would have worked for summer. And then our process involves Susan and I getting together on a one-on-one basis and talking through each one of these new ideas that she comes up with. And as we talk through those ideas, what we're really focused on is first and foremost Amanda, and then secondly, what's this product going to do for us? Is it going to drive traffic? Is it going to drive top-line sales? Is it going to drive press? Is it going to drive margin? You know, there's got to be a reason for being. We didn't put those 2 new salads in because they're good. They happen to be wonderful, but that's everything we do is wonderful. So they had to meet some sort of criteria. So we were a little gutsy in taking bacon and fruit and putting it together with a balsamic vinaigrette and saying, you know, I think that this is what she's looking for, because she's telling us through so many different channels, through the media and whatnot. And we need something cool and refreshing as well. You know, that's a little on the sweet and smoky side. So the shrimp Dijonnaise it's cool, it's a little bit more refreshing, has some of the acid from the Dijon mustard, has the spinach playing in there. So we knew we had 2 great products. Mm-hmm. We tested those. We got some great feedback from our Amandas throughout the system, and she told us through her, through several different channels that we're on the right track. So that's what we ran with. The whole process took about 6 months.
And how are the sales?
Sales are brisk. Mm-hmm. Sales are great. Again, we're not one of those companies where you don't see us on television. We don't have a huge budget for advertising. So it's all word of mouth. It's social media. It's through our internet connection. It's through our e-club. And so at La Madeleine, it's all about word of mouth. We need Amandas talking to other Amandas and bringing friends in. And you've hit the mark if you're selling 15, 20 of these a day, of whatever new product you're putting in, you've hit the mark on those.
Your Culinary Institute of America degree is a tremendous asset. But you've said in the past to me that you don't want to be typecast as just being someone that works in the kitchen. So you've gone from culinary to operations where most people haven't tracked that way. How do you ensure that you won't be typecast?
That's a great question. I'll start by reiterating a point you just made, which is my CIA degree. It's probably the smartest thing I've ever done in my life. Is I went to the CIA, applied myself, got a great education, enjoyed every single second along the way, and that degree has worked for me ever since. It's opened a lot of doors I never would have had a chance of even knocking on without it. So that's what got me going. And while I was at the CIA, my dream and my focus was to be the best chef in whatever city I was living in. So be it in my own cafe or at a hotel or at some restaurant, I wanted to be known as the greatest chef in that city. And I didn't really care where I lived. I just wanted to be renowned that way. So that's how it all started. But that morphed over the course of time. You know, the idea of being a chef was fun, but I decided, well, I don't want to spend my entire life behind the stove. I don't want to run the kitchen. I want to run the department. And so I became an F&B, and I don't want to run the department. I want to run the hotel. At every stage in my career, it's become, I don't want to do this. I want to run the company. So as it's morphed from culinary into operations, back into R&D, back into operations, and then into executive management, I think it's been there's been a flow to it all. It hasn't been a real herky-jerky kind of a ride. It wasn't a lot of strange twists and turns. It's all kind of worked together. But you can take it all the way back to the CIA. It started with those 2 years.
And you've made a point when you take on a new job of telling whoever you reported to what your interests were. You didn't keep it a secret.
Right. And specifically, when I was at Universal Studios, I came on to Universal Studios Hollywood as the corporate chef in Hollywood, and I was there about 6 months. And I remember going home and telling my wife at the time, I get this place. I understand this. I'm going to be the vice president of food and beverage here because I get it and I love it. I just know how it works. And within a few months, I went to my boss, a gentleman named Norm Rich, and I told him that someday I want to sit in your chair because I know you're going to move on too. And so, things like that don't happen overnight. But I made those thoughts known to Norm, and he had a tremendous influence over my career and was very instrumental in helping me move along through my nearly 11 years at Universal through several different promotions.
And do you think your culinary degree makes it easier or more difficult for your culinary team members?
Easier. Definitely easier. It makes it easier because she's not selling something to somebody who doesn't understand food, nor am I trying to teach or instill something or an idea into somebody who doesn't understand food. Whereas when Susan and I have a discussion, or Susan and Claudia and I have a discussion, we talk a common language. We all know what flavor is about. We all understand what authenticity is about. And so there's a common ground there, and there's a camaraderie there. And so we're able to focus in on the things I mentioned before, on why are we doing this? And from a culinary standpoint, how are we going to reach our goals? How are we going to excite Amanda Montgomery to come more often to La Madeleine, or to bring her friends, and to start talking about this food?
How much time does La Madeleine's operations, you and your culinary team, spend on its baked goods, and particularly its bread lines?
Well, a tremendous amount of time, to be honest with you. La Madeleine is part of a much larger concern. We're part of a group of companies that include big bakeries and bread manufacturers. We spend a tremendous amount of time on the quality of our breads, the authenticity of our breads, the preparation of our breads, and how we display them, how we sell them, how we use them, and how we can move more of them. It's kind of a silly answer there, but a lot of time. We spend a lot of time on that.
We've been talking with Phil Costner, COO of La Madeleine. Check out the next part of this series as we explore what it takes to be a leader with guts. For Food Channel Pro, I'm Ellen Codiff.